Greetings, I'm Robin Walker, author of the new book Before the Slave Trade. As a Black history researcher, I've often been asked to clarify facts and challenge myths about Black history. Parents and school teachers need to know the facts to pass on to their children. Lecturers in Black history want factual information to use as teaching material. In particular, Before the Slave Trade challenges the three key myths about Black history. Myth 1. Outside of ancient Egypt, Africa has no early historical monuments of its own. In Before the Slave Trade, I address this issue. Africans built historical monuments. The West African cities of Djenné, Gao, San, Bore, Kano, and Katsina have medieval monuments that are still standing. Art and architectural scholars Sergio Domian and Dr. Z.R. Domachowski have studied and surveyed these monuments and have published their findings. The Great Mosque of Djenné, for example, was converted into a mosque in 1204 AD. Its foundation as the Palace of the Kings predates this and probably takes us back to the 11th century. At 56 meters square, it is the largest clay brick building on Earth. It has become something of a tourist attraction for the West African nation of Mali. In Sudan, Central East Africa's largest country, there are at least 223 standing pyramids in the cities of El Kourou, Nouri, Jebel Barkal, and Merowe. In addition, there are numerous temples dedicated to Amen and Apedimak in the cities of Kawa, Jebel Barkal, Musararat, and Naka. The great scholar at the British Museum, Sir E.A. Wallace Budge, published a 2-volume survey of these monuments many years ago. The buildings were found to have been constructed in over a 1,000-year period between 860 BC and AD 350. In East Africa, there are a series of medieval cities lining the coasts of Kenya and Tanzania. Chief among these are Gedi, Jumba la Mtwana, Mnarani, and Kilwa. The English scholar Dr. Basil Davidson wrote learnedly on this culture. Several archaeologists, including Gervase Matthews and Mark Horton, have excavated the sites. I myself studied the ruined 13th century palace of Gedi and found it to have had 54 rooms. In addition, I counted 11 courtyards, 7 burial areas, and wait for it, 6 double cubicle toilets. In southern Africa are the ruins of 600 early granite brick ruins surveyed by, among others, T.V. Bulpin. They were spread over a vast territory, including the modern nations of Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa. Great Zimbabwe was the largest, consisting of 12 buildings spread over 3 square miles. The central temple has walls that reach 35 feet in height and 17 feet in thickness. In Nigeria, Dr. Patrick Darling of Bournemouth University surveyed the ruins of the medieval city of Benin. He found 10,000 miles of walling, which is incidentally 4 or 5 times the length of the Great Wall of China. The Guinness Book of Records reports that Great Benin was the largest examples of earthenworks in the world carried out before the modern mechanical era. Let's read it. Earthenworks, largest world. The largest earthworks in the world carried out prior to the mechanical era were the linear earth boundaries of the Benin Empire in the Bendel state of Nigeria. These were first reported in 1900 and partially surveyed in 1967. Myth number 2. Outside of ancient Egypt, Africa has no writing of its own. In Before the Slave Trade, I address this issue. The Sunday Times magazine, 28th of January 2001, drew attention to the fact that in the West African city of Chingeti, there are 3,450 handwritten manuscripts still held by African families and institutions. According to Olivier Blaise, some of these date back to the 8th century AD. The nearby cities of Walata and Wadane have perhaps 6,000 manuscripts. Professor John Hunwick has made it his business to study the old manuscripts of the city of Kano. So, what is in these manuscripts? Professor Charles Stewart of Illinois University estimates, quote, that a quarter will be jurisprudence, 10% will be Sufism, which is mysticism, 10% Arabic language, 10% studies of the Quran, 10% literature, 10% biographies of the Prophet Muhammad and Hadith, which is tradition, and 10% theology. The remaining 15% is likely to include works on history, logic, ethics, biography, mathematics, astronomy and astrology, medicine, encyclopedias, education, and geography. To westernize, this is Indiana Jones stuff, ancient texts holding secrets that have been lost over the centuries, age-old learning that coexists with but is not part of the modern world. But although the keepers of these volumes appreciate their value, any passerby is allowed to look and learn if they wish. In Ethiopia, 12,000 manuscripts have been photographed or microfiched by scholars. The oldest is the 10th century AD Abba Garima Gospels. Many scholars have published on these manuscripts, such as David Buxton and Roderick Grierson. Many of the documents are of a religious nature, containing hagiographies, texts by and for monks, histories, etc. As in West Africa, Ethiopia also has a tradition of making illuminated manuscripts.